The Celtics Talk podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com, 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? Post-game pod coming to you after the Celtics escape TD Garden with a 120-119 triumph over the frisky New Orleans Pelicans. CJ McCollum, a little too strong on a layup in the final seconds. If you didn't watch this game, you probably spared yourself a heart attack because the Celtics get hit with Jayson Tatum misses 2 free throws. Derek White has a 5-second violation, which sets into motion McCollum having a chance to get this thing to overtime. But the Celtics, or win the game, I should say. Celtics find a way to get the victory and get back on the winning track after a frustrating night the other night against the Sacramento Kings. Coming up in the pod, you'll hear, we'll take you inside the locker room. You're going to hear from Joe. And I think the Joe sound is some of the more interesting one. The first few questions out of the gates talk about the starters struggling, about just the team in general, like what's made this little stretch here where they're coming into tonight. They were 8-7 over their previous 15. They were 6-6 over their last 12. And Joe kind of feeds off the energy and says, I love this, where Celtics just won a game and all the questions are about, about everything that's kind of gone wrong. And I thought he just gave some really enlightening answers, because I think someone like me, where I'm paid to tell you why they're struggling, and there hasn't been a real commonality to it. Now, I guess from a big picture, you could say they've been slightly inconsistent. And that's kind of a cop-out, though, right? But tonight sort of accentuates it, where, like Luke Cornett had a alley-oop dunk at one point and smoked it. It just, should have dunked it. It flies out of the rim. Derek White had not only the 5-second violation, but another one where they inbounded to him and it bounces right off his hip and goes right back to New Orleans ball. Jayson Tatum missing 2 free throws. These all sound like little things, and they are, and yet they all seem to add up. And so the Celtics, as good as they've been overall, and the numbers, what's the crazy part about this stretch is that over those 15 games, I think they were still 4th in the NBA in point differential in that span. Part of that is they're winning games by a lot and then losing by a little, although 2 of their most recent losses were by double figures, as they kind of, had some of their worst basketball of the year. But it's not like we've been able to just hone in on one thing. We haven't been able to say, if they just had one more bench piece, one more bench scorer, or one more bench rebounder, whatever the case may be, or if X was happening more often in these games. It's been something a little bit different every night. Some nights it's turnovers, some nights the offense goes cold, some nights the defense can't stop anybody. And any consumer, whether it's me watching these games or you guys at home viewing it on our network, it's like it can be maddening to try and figure out why isn't there a common thread necessarily to all of this. And I know I've been, every time I look at the game logs, I'm like, man, some nights the offense is great, but the defense doesn't have it. Some nights it's the other way around. And so I think Joe acknowledging that made me feel a little bit better. I mean, he gets paid a lot more money to make sure that this thing is running smooth. But his point was, too, that the Celtics are kind of held to a high standard, not only within a championship team coming off a title season and the clear quest is to be back on that stage, but you've got 2 teams in the NBA who are kind of on historic paces with the way that Oklahoma City and Cleveland are dominating. And so we don't even just judge the Celtics based on what they're doing. I mean, 28-11 is a pretty good record. It's not too far off from last season. And yet, because the Celtics aren't doing it the same way, where most nights they were a buzzsaw, they took advantage of home court, they feasted on inferior teams, and this year it's been more like sucked at home. They've haven't been as dominant in wins, and they've really kind of only gotten up for bigger matchups, and sometimes they struggle against the inferior teams. Although I say that, and then much of their wins have come against sub 500 teams. So Joe's point is, it's good that we're still nitpicking. He enjoys that the conversation is holding this team to a high standard, and yet it's okay also to sort of step back from the 10,000-foot view and be like, not only can this team get better, but they're 28-11. There's a lot to work out before May and June, but they're still in a pretty good spot. In fact, Cleveland finally trips up in a weird circumstance too. They're up double digits against Indiana. Indiana loses Halliburton in that game, and somehow Indiana goes on a monster run. I'm guessing T.J. McConnell was everywhere, or unless he only devours the Celtics, and they win that game. So the Celtics now 5 games back. They do have 2 head-to-heads remaining, both in February. You know, you just start looking at the roadmap. There is a chance for the Celtics to sort of muscle back into this conversation. So, as much as I can sometimes lose my mind on these programs and, the lack of effort at spurts in that Sacramento game are maddening, and the miscues tonight are frustrating. Again, it's like it's all part of the conversation about this team, and it's good that we can kind of view it from every angle. And I always say, like, we go on to these post-game shows and, the immediate aftermath of this game, and how do we approach it, right? Like, the Celtics just won a 1-point game, but very easily could have been one of the more disastrous losses of the season if McCollum makes the layup, and there were so many errors that preceded that. But there was also some good moments. Jayson Tatum's hustle and getting a second chance rebound, and Jaylen Brown was like 7 assists or 8 assists tonight, including a couple like absolutely beautiful gems to Luke Cornett. And so there's good moments, there's bad moments. The good outweigh the bad on this night. And my whole thing is, like, the Celtics need to find more of those good moments. Now, some will say, like, the defense just needs to be better. And when you see Trey Murphy and others going off for 30-point nights, I can't argue with that. I will say that I do think a lot of what ails this team right now falls back on the offensive side. And, like tonight, they only make one of their first 11 3-pointers. And all of a sudden you look up and they're trailing by double digits in the first quarter. Now you got to scrap to get back in this game. I do think that's sort of, if I had to pick like one of the other commonalities in this run, it's like even the Oklahoma City game, like that third quarter, they just couldn't get anything to fall. One of their most poor shooting nights of the year, but Tatum had a ton of potential assists in that game. Like, sometimes they're generating the right looks, they're just not making it. And so you'll hear Joe Mazzulla talking about expected output from the starters, and like the starters have been bad. Like, it's almost unfathomable how poor the starters have been. Now with 140 minutes or 130 minutes probably of court time. And yet you feel like they're going to figure it out because they have that institutional knowledge from last season. They've proven they can thrive together. And if shots start going down, if Derek White pulls himself out of this little, kind of up and down funk that he's been in, and if Jaylen Brown's a little bit more secure with the basketball, if Drew Holiday picks his spots, as Kristaps Porzingis seemingly gets back to really kind of finding his stride and feeling healthy here, and if Tatum, again, plays with even more consistency, all of a sudden this team will launch. And, some of the little stuff that has contributed to losses won't seem as jarring. So, we're nearing the halfway point of the season. I suspect we'll be kind of, again, taking inventory and how we feel about this team and the strides that need to be made. And, well, obviously there's going to be a lot of trade talk over the next 3 weeks leading up to the deadline and what Brad Stevens needs to do. I find myself, and I said this on our postgame show tonight, normally by this point I'm writing about 5 different guys, like, here are the guards they could go get. One, there's not a lot of options for what they can do, and we've discussed that at length here. But, I mean, the other part of it is I just think if what you have in-house plays a little bit better, then a lot of what we lament will dissipate. And, even tonight, Luke Cornett has a great night off the bench, 4 of 6, 8 points, 7 rebounds, got in a little bit of foul trouble, but really because he was playing hard and playing defense, and plus 13 overall. Pritchard's plus 12, gets 11 points, finally gets a couple threes to fall, much closer to what we've seen from him this season. Hauser, it was weird. He only played a couple minutes in the first half, but comes back. Only 9 minutes overall, but did have a big 3 along the way. So, again, a lot of little things you could pluck from this game. Celtics were really good on the offensive glass, generating second chance opportunities. 10 of their 44 buckets, so just about a quarter of their buckets came on second chance opportunities. So good to see them shore up the rebounding after what Sabonis did the other night. But I'll go back to it. It's a tough spot to be in when we're going to be harsh about like how they play. Jayson Tatum has 38 points in this game, and I probably opened our pregame show being like, the 2 free throws gave the Pelicans a chance to at least get out of here. And so it's the vicious cycle of how it is. And I do believe that the Celtics have better basketball ahead of them. I do believe we'll continue to be critical until they put another prolonged stretch. You look back, I think it was, 16-3 start to the season. It's been a little more bumpy since then, but a chance here. At least they found a way to win. It's a lot more fun to come on this podcast and not be ripping out my hair about how everything went wrong. There's on a night like this, there's just a little bit more good than there was bad, and I think there's even more good to come for the Celtics. So let's get into more from our post-game show.
The award-winning 24 Auto Group is the easy choice for your next car, truck, or SUV. 11 locations and over 2,000 new and pre-owned vehicles in stock.
Shop the brands you know and love, backed by savings and service you can count on. Plus, buy 3 and get 1 free for all tire purchases, with 11 convenient locations across the South Shore of Massachusetts.
24 has the knack to save you more. Visit us in store or online at 24autogroup.com.
It's so much better to be up here talking about this victory. And I don't care how we got it, if it was ugly, if it was pretty, a W is still a W. Nobody remembers how pretty a win was in January. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody recalls that. All you recall is, did they get that win? Oh, did they lose? Not about how you won or how it's period. Did you get a W? And we snuck out with the W. And you got to give credit to New Orleans. You know, they came out, they played well, they played hard, they had a lot of fight. We had some mistakes. We did some things down the stretch. But, I mean, can we give Jayson Tatum his superstar credit? Because at the end of the day, I'm glad we're right here with me. Because
Talk to him.
This is the one thing. He had a quiet 38 points. You look up there and you say 38 points, and if you were watching the game, you would have had no idea that he put it down like that. Like, Jayson Tatum, I'm tired of the Jayson Tatum slander. You know, that's what I'm really getting to. I'm tired of the Jayson Tatum slander. Everybody is talking about this, that, and the third, about him not being, you know, what was it, Brandon Jennings talking about?
I was going to say,
a soft superstar. The softest superstar.
Okay, so he said that, but then he comes out, you know, in 30 points, 38 points tonight, and we needed that, you know, everything about it. And wasn't nothing soft about that dunk. He put DeJounte Murray in the basket. And he missed the layup, went out of bounds, got back in, got his feet set, and then went back and dunked that thing. So, so it's small things, man, that I look at that add up to huge things that makes Jayson Tatum who he is. And we needed every last bucket tonight.
Yeah, 38 points by him, 14 of 30 shooting. By the way, his 17th 30-point game of the year. Let's send it down to Abby Chin, standing by with Jayson Tatum.
Jayson, fourth quarters have been rough as of late. You took over, scoring 10 of your 38 points. How did you guys maintain your composure, particularly there at the end, and get this done?
We just stuck with it. That's what we just kept telling ourselves. We had some live ball turnovers. I missed 2 free throws. We missed so many layups. I'm fouling guys on 3-point shots. It was everything that could have went wrong. But we were just resilient. We stayed with it, and we figured out a way to win.
I know we're almost halfway through the season, but you guys working Kristaps back in. I saw you hyping him up when you checked in for your final stint in the fourth. What has that process been like?
You know, we all brothers. We all been through a lot together. The highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. So, you know, getting him back at his best is important for us. You know, he missed a couple bunnies. I just wanted to come in the game and, you know, tell him, like, you know, next play, we need you. And he stuck with it.
A lot of familiar faces on that Pelican sideline. And Javonte Green, Daniel Tice taking their assignments against you in particular very seriously. How fun is that, or what kind of challenge is that?
Yeah, anytime, you know, you match up against guys that, you know, you played with that was on your team, different kind of connection and bond there, and different level of competitive nature. So it's always good to see those guys. And, you know, you want to walk away with a win and, you know, have something to talk about.
You did just that, Jayson. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jayson Tatum, 38 points, the second most he has scored so far this season. As we welcome in Drew and Scala, got to see all the action right in front of y'all. The fact that it came down to the wire, and Jayson Tatum, you know, you saw him shake his head because he's sick about those free throws, but the dude still had 38 points, and the Celtics ultimately come out on top with the win here.
Yeah, Kayla, Jayson Tatum was fantastic in this game, and we highlighted it in the player of the game when we handed it to him, which was no surprise. 18 of his 38 points came in the paint. And we told you earlier, Zion Williamson averages just over 15 points in the paint, which is a lot, right? So if you're scoring 18 points in the paint, you're doing something right. And it seemed like he took it personally, Scal, to help get this team back on the right track after what happened Friday.
Yeah, I think right from the first quarter, you could tell he was different today. He was like, I'm going to get to the rim. If I have to make a rim read when I get there, I'll do it. But I thought Tatum was great today. He was like the head of the snake. Obviously, we're not winning this game without him, but that's the mindset that I want to see, especially coming off a loss. Star players have to do that.
Joe, the way you guys performed down the stretch, the past couple of games, this isn't typical of who you guys are.
Where we performed in what
in the fourth quarter, just we'll say execution-wise. I mean, you guys uncharacteristic turnovers, even shots, missed shots, stuff like that. Like this is not what we know the Celtics to be. Why is that?
I mean, I think again, every season is different. You're on a journey. With that being said, if you take a look at the perspective, there's are things that we're doing well, and I think the most important is winning the game and making the necessary plays, and even when things aren't going well, so to speak. So every season brings on different challenges. Every season brings on different opportunities. And, the situation that we're in now is we got to just fight to win. Got to fight to make the necessary plays. I would say when you have games throughout a season when you lose because of effort in certain situations, tonight they were mistakes with effort. But when you have a few games in the bank where you make mistakes without effort, it's harder to, accept tonight. Like I thought tonight we had great intentionality on the game plan, great intentionality on the details on both ends of the floor. I just thought we made mistakes with effort, and those are the things that are going to happen. And as long as we keep it that way, and we continue to just get better, that's the most important thing. You got to chip away at the mindset.
When you say mistakes with effort, what are you talking about? Is there
right intentions? Like you have the right intentions. Like you're gonna. We only had 12 turnovers. They just happened to be live ball on 5 of them. I don't think Derek meant to throw the ball into lose it into that one. I think a couple of the drives that we had there was no intention to. So it's just plays that are like you have the right intentions. You just got to deliver it, and so when we keep it like that, we'll be able to figure it, get through it.
Is that a matter of trying too hard to do something and getting away from what the game plan is, or
no. Like I said, everything we did was in the process of executing the game plan, and so when you make those mistakes, it's fine. So the difference is there's been times in the past where we didn't have those situations, and so we were very intentional. Like I thought we had the right guys shoot the right shots. I thought we contested them, and they made them, and we were able to withstand that. And so the process of what we did, we made some not so good plays, so that also that too. But most of the mistakes that we made were with the effort and the right intentions, and that's what you have to fight for while winning the game is the most important thing.
Joe, what did you see in the 5-second violation?
Yep.
What did you see on it? Like,
yes.
You saw it was 5 seconds.
Sure.
Okay. Like.
Yep. Sure.
You had a timeout. Like that's why you saved 2 timeouts. Like, should Derek have called a timeout, or what kind of should have happened there?
Yep.
Whether it's a recent stretch, you guys have been on where that gap between, like you said, the expected and the results there. Can that kind of take a toll on guys in terms of you're generating the right shots? In this game, there's a lot of point blank shots that you guys missed. Like, can that be sort of a mental thing that builds up? With some guys having lower shooting seasons than you do.
Tonight I thought it actually we worked through that, but over the course of a game and stretches, yeah, no question. But again, we have to have the mental toughness to continue to work through that and find ways to win without it. And I would say the ultimate compliment is we're 28-11, and this is the types of conversations that we're having. So it's a beautiful place to be in. So I'm serious. I think it's great. It's a great standard and a great expectation to have, and we have to deliver. And so that we all know that. And that's the process towards it. But when what are we, the 3rd team in the league right now, which isn't great. But look at the 5th. Sounds like a Morgan here, and that's how it should be because of where we're trying to get to. So it's the ultimate compliment, and we just continue to work through it.
Yeah, along those lines, what is making this stretch so challenging?
We're just not playing our best basketball, and I think we talked about it to Grandy on the radio. Like when you're 7-6 over 13, it's not just one thing, and so We just have to continue to, and when the reference points are different, and so there's two great teams in the league that are having historic seasons, so they become the reference point of like, oh, you're not as good because you're not them, and they're great teams having historical years, and we're on our own path that we have to be able to work through. And just because we were this last year, you can't take for granted the details, habit, execution, togetherness, trust, like all that stuff has to be rebuilt. And I think sometimes when you have the same team, we have this expectation that we're just going to pick up there, and it's different. Different year, people in different spaces, and so we have to reestablish that. You have to work that, and that just takes time. So this is the space that we're in. I love the fact that we're not happy. It's the best place to be in, and we'll figure it the hell out.
In the second half, you guys had more shots in the restricted area than beyond the arc. How much of that was reading the defense compared to trying to find a more reliable source of scoring with threes not falling?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on the head. Just reading the defense, seeing what they give us, understanding that, maybe we're not shooting the three as well as we like. Just try to attack guys off closeouts and see what we can get.
Jayson, big roar off those two dunks, flying high, lots of energy. Then you smoke those two free throws. How are you at managing your emotions when the game is tight, and are you seeing yourself improve in that category?
Yeah. I mean, uncharacteristic, missing those two free throws to put the game away. No excuse for that, but I've made countless plays to win games and stuff over my career, so pretty confident in those moments. But like you said, smoked those two free throws. Wasn't happy about that, but we still won.
Jayson, in a month where you guys might not be playing up to the standard you might want to be at, you come into a game like this, there's some mistakes at the end, and it ends up being maybe a little bit more close than it had to be. But getting a win like this, where stuff like that happens and you still get the win, is that good in a month like this? Like, how does that make you guys feel when you win a game, where even though you made some mistakes like that?
Yeah, I mean, you take a win any way you can get it. We just at a spot right now, 28-11 or so, third best record in the league, and we don't necessarily feel great about how we playing. But the positive thing is we know we can play a lot better, and it's so much room for improvement. So having the third best record in the league and feeling like it's so much more that we can get better at, it's a positive way to look at things.
Jayson, you use the word uncharacteristic. I think that's kind of one of the words that's being used a lot, especially the last two games. You guys are not playing like yourselves, not playing like the expectations. Can you explain what's going on over this stretch?
Just a funky stretch, I guess. It's impossible to think that every game is going to go exactly how you want it. It's just not the way it goes. But what I am happy about is how we responded tonight through the missed free throws, through the turnovers, fouling guys, just plays that we normally don't make. I think we did a really good job tonight of not letting it snowball effect, and just figuring out a way to win the game. I think that's most important. And like I said, just being 28-11 and feeling like it's so much more room for improvement, so much better. I mean, we can play so much better. It's hard. Like, maybe you don't want to be playing your best basketball at the beginning of January. Like, we've been through this before. We still got a lot of time to get back to our identity. It's not supposed to be easy. Like, we get everybody best shot. Shout out to the Pelicans. They played really well tonight. I don't think they play like that all the time, but it's a good test for us. Every single night we getting everybody best shot, and that's just how it's going to be.
Jayson, Murray sets a season high for threes made. Murphy matches his. Is it to a point now you just got to expect every team you play to play over their heads? Like, is this just going to be normal? Like, you can't expect New Orleans to play like they're 8-30? I mean, is that just kind of how this is going to go, trying to repeat?
I think so. Just expect everybody's best shot. I kind of remember my rookie year. We wasn't 8-30 or whatever, but I remember when we played the Warriors. It was a big deal. Like, they won the championship last year. This is a big matchup. It's a big game. So just understanding that's where we're at, kind of our place in this league. And I think it's just gonna make us better. That regardless of who we playing, is we gotta expect the best from them.
Jayson, you guys have hit a pretty streaky stretch with the three. It makes me think back to last year when you were filling out the stat sheet and dominating without particularly shooting well during the playoff run. I'm wondering if that stretch taught you anything about your game on how to affect a game without shooting it particularly well, per se.
As a team or just me?
Just you in general, just your evolution as a game.
Oh, yeah. I think, the coaching staff and Joe in particular just challenges me every single night to be as well-rounded and dominate as best as I can, and not making it just about how many points you score. How do you impact the game? How do you impact your teammates? How do you impact, ultimately, the arena in a positive way? And that's something I try to stay conscious of on a nightly basis.
Last question to Noah.
Something we talk a lot about is effort, obviously. But I'm curious, from your standpoint, you mentioned impacting the arena. How often do you feel like it's not necessarily that you guys aren't trying hard, but there's just a lack of energy, or maybe it's coming from the arena, maybe it's coming from you guys and spilling over? But is that something that you think you guys have to kind of make an intentional effort about? Is less about playing hard, but more about kind of getting energy in the building, if that makes sense?
Oh, no. It's never from a lack of energy in the building. I was at the free throw line today, and C.J. McCollum asked me, he was like, yo, is it always this turned up in here? And I was like, yeah. So I think that's the luxury that we have of playing in front of, the best friends in the arena, regardless of if we playing in TNT or we playing a team that's 8-30. They bring the passion, they bring the energy. So, we always can feed off the crowd and feed off the fans, from finals game to a preseason game. So that's never in question, the energy that we can get from the crowd.
All right, up next, Celtics are heading north of the border to play Toronto, another struggling team. It's this weird little bridge in the middle here where, very Western Conference heavy schedule. They had that arduous trip with Minnesota, Houston, OKC, and Denver. Now they're home for these two games. They go up to Toronto, come back, play like Orlando. I'm blanking on if there's another home game in there. And then they're going back out west, with hopefully, given the dire situation out in L.A., a couple L.A. games out there. Hopefully everything's more under control out there. I think they play Dallas. So there's some more challenges coming here. We'll see who Dallas has available at that point. But Golden State's in that stretch as well. So, again, they just got to be, especially when you're on the road, you got to take it up a level. Even going up to Toronto on Wednesday, that building can when things are going well, that city's behind that team. Despite their struggles this year, it could get interesting. I think for me, it just starts to come down to, what do I want to see from the Celtics in those games, and it's so outside of the opponent. Like, I just want to see the starters start to find that momentum, find that groove that they were in. Even in this game, like, Tatum comes back with 7:04 to go in a 2-point game. And so essentially the starters, depending on, I'll have to go back and see the end free throws because Al came in for a couple possessions. But, I'm guessing the starters were pretty close to flat tonight, like a 0 plus minus, after not being great in the first half. Tatum even -9 overall is weird to see, but again, they made the right plays. I want to see that group start to get some momentum, get back to being the ones that set a positive tone for this team, make it easy for the bench to roll in, keep that momentum going, make some of these games a little bit easier. But we know how it goes. Other teams on the other side seems to be super motivated. let's see a little bit more from those starting group, and let's see a little bit more focus overall from these Celtics. And then maybe the questions in the post-game press conference won't be as negative. But they're deserved, and I'm glad that Joe embraced the line of questioning on this night. We'll be here with you, so go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk podcast.